One of Yu-Gi-Oh's biggest discourses of 2023 was the outrageous and exorbitant prices seen to build meta decks in the later half of the year. A prime example of this was YCS Indianapolis, which featured only a single deck in its top 32 cunt, that being Runic Stun, which came in under $400. With cards like SP Little Knight, the Sinful Spoils Engine, Triple Tactics Thrust, Chaos Angel, and the Rescue Ace cards, Hydrant and Turbulence, all costing an arm and a leg, it was fairly difficult to build a deck that could contend with the meta game without breaking the wallet. While the 25th anniversary Rarity collection helped alleviate this issue tremendously by reprinting heavy hitters like Pot of Prosperity and Baron de Fleur, 2024's first major release, Maze of Millennia, has created some new issues, started yet another discourse, and even caused one Yugituber to outright quit the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG until significant and meaningful change has been achieved. The issue, and what everyone was talking about over the past week on social media, mainly stems from a single card, which is actually indicative of a larger problem. That card is the long-awaited Bonfire, a card that in a vacuum isn't even that great, however adds hyper consistency to numerous high-level meta decks, can be played in rogue level ones, and truly exemplifies what many like myself are calling the Year of Fire. All Bonfire does is let you add a level 4 or lower pyro monster from your deck to your hand as a hard once per turn effect, so basically Rhoda for Pyro. Again, on face value, nothing special or anything to get worked up over, unless maybe you play Volcanics. And honestly, if this card would have been released over a decade ago, I don't think anyone would have cared. However, at this specific time, during the Year of Fire and the Sinful Spoils storyline, Bonfire allows you to add the blockbuster Snake Eye Populace, who can special summon itself after being added to the hand, and then upon being summoned, will add a Snake Eye Speller Trap from your deck to your hand. Populace also goes in the back row when it leaves the field for additional synergy with the Sinful Spoils cards. Bonfire in the Populace is generally seen as one of the best starters in the entire metagame post Phantom Nightmare, very similar to Wanted in the Diabella Star, and the engine is splashable in a multitude of high-level competitive decks such as Fire King, Snake Eye, Infernoid, and Rescue Ace. This is all to say that Bonfire was a highly anticipated card, and most might say that it was no surprise that Konami printed it in the highest rarities available, as Bonfire is confirmed to be an ultra rare as well as a collector's rare in the set. Pre-sales for Bonfire are currently sitting around $115 per copy at the time of me recording this video on TCGplayer.com, but were $130 a few days prior. This caused a serious uproar in the community as fans and players who were anticipating the set were wildly upset by the price of the most desired card in the set. Especially considering, one, now that it's been fully spoiled, most players don't consider the set to be very good and only want a few cards from it. Thus, buying sealed product doesn't seem like a very smart proposition from a value perspective, as opposed to something like Age of Overlord, which was filled with tons of great cards. And number two, it seems like Bonfire was never going to be cheap given that its main print is ultra rare. As Jeff Jones eloquently pointed out, Bonfire was listed at $80 as a pre-sale price by Gamer's Choice, which it immediately sold out at. They subsequently relisted the same card at $90 only to have it immediately sell out again. To me, this says that Bonfire is going to be yet another $100 meta staple, much like SP Little Knight, which, if you think about it, only came out a few months ago. This is what I think a lot of people are getting pissed off about the most. The idea that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now in a cycle where every few months you have to spend $100 on a new meta staple to keep up, rather than spending $100 on a full deck like in many other card games. This is all without mentioning that Phantom Nightmare releases in 1 month and could hypothetically feature another $100 meta card in Snake Eye Populace, which is the entire reason that all these decks are playing Bonfire to begin with, and let's be honest, it's likely going to be printed as a secret rare because, well, Konami. The outrage over Bonfire being another $100 meta staple sent Twitter into a frenzy. This also saw Yu-Gi-Oh! Trending multiple times over the week, and in a shocking turn of events, led to a Yugituber and Twitter personality quitting the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG altogether in protest. In a very candid video, Yugituber Giant Skyhawk aired all his grievances, issues, and frustrations with the current state of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and the horrible competitive price cycle we find ourselves in. He vowed to quit the TCG, aka physical paper Yu-Gi-Oh!, because of how Konami was running things and to not return for a very long time or possibly ever. This video is not only excellent, and I implore you to watch it, the link will be in the description, but he also makes a lot of points and shares a lot of the sentiments that I have brought up on this very channel over the past few months. like how a lot of times the TCG's most expensive cards are made so artificially by just rarity bumping them and making them scarce. How the reprint cycle is completely out of whack with impactful meta staples, like how Pot of Prosperity took almost 2 years to become widely available outside of Blazing Vortex, and how the OCG high-end cards are usually available for a fraction of the TCG counterparts. Current example would be Bonfire, which is about $40 give or take in the OCG compared to the $115 that you're currently paying in the TCG. And yes, I understand that this is a pre-sale price that will probably come down. My best guess is to $100, but that would still be about 2.5 times the price that you're going to pay in Asia. These are factors that players hate, but would probably forgive if they happened once every blue moon. However, in this trading card game, it's completely the norm and essentially the business model. An all-time legendary example of this is one that I remember very well from the GX era, 2008, in Dark Arm Dragon. This card was a mere rare in the OCG, but was rarity bumped to secret rare for the TCG. This was at a time where Yu-Gi-Oh! Packs did not all contain holographic cards, and translated to the card being $275 on release. Dark Arm was the anchor of a tier 0 deck in Dad Return, where you played 3 copies of the card. That's $825 just for a playset of Dad. That doesn't take into account the other $50 to $60 cards at the time, like Destiny Hero Malicious, Allure Darkness, or Destiny Draw, which were also just 3 ofs in the deck. That's why at 22, I didn't play Dad Return during that format. I was completely priced out of the deck. I said this last year, but I don't understand why Konami refuses to adapt to the OCG set model, which actually costs players less money while giving them more value. Why don't they just make and release more sets like the 25th Anniversary Rarity Collection, which everyone loved and was a raving success. It gave players meta staples for literal pennies by printing them in low rarity like super rare, while giving high rarity chasers like myself QCR, which was also great for collectors. In the middle, they had ulti and collector's rare, both really nice, and although they could have probably gotten rid of some of the other rarities that were unnecessary in my opinion, like ultra and secret, something like this done every year on a smaller scale, maybe half the set size, cutting 2 or 3 of the rarities, would be absolutely phenomenal for basically anyone who plays the game. I'd cut some filler and still be able to hit all the major angles of super high rarity, super cheap, and some nice rarity prints in the middle that players want, and they could even take some of the game's most impactful low rarity cards from the year, maybe 15 or 10 of them, and throw them in there as well. This sounds absolutely like a home run and something that would probably be their best-selling set of the year. Whatever the solution is, players clearly aren't happy, and while this isn't affecting me as much personally, because I largely just refuse to play the sinful package and all the fire stuff, I am as invested as anyone watching this video. I'm still currently looking for a deck to play, but I've picked up a Flu and Centurion Core, I have a Horus set, QCR Ashes, Prosperities, and Perms Nib for the long term, so I'm not someone who just complains about the prices of the game, but isn't actually going to events or playing. I think Konami should be wary of this situation and what's going on, because complaining is one thing, but if players are actually going to be quitting the TCG, like physical Yu-Gi-Oh, and declaring that they're only going to be playing Master Duel or Dueling Book because of all the price problems, then it becomes an issue that actually starts to affect their bottom line as well. Bonfire should have just been a consistency adder to Fire and Centurion decks, but for many in the community, it's become a serious point of contention and one that is essentially a breaking point. But those are just my thoughts, and I'd like to know yours in the comment section below. How do you guys feel about this entire issue of what's going on? Personally, I do find it to be absolutely outrageous that you have another $100 staple that is probably going to have to be added into your deck, and then when Phantom Nightmare comes out, just around the corner, you're looking at Populous or the Promethean Princess, both probably going to be secret rares, and even if they're just $75 a piece, it's just another arm and a leg that you have to pay for a few more cards, and it just becomes ridiculous at some point. So leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always.